authority of saying your own unique way of thinking and putting things together can be evocative. And that's what you're talking about when you have a feeling of something, but you've never been able to put it into words. And then somebody says, some theoretician says it in their way, and you say, oh, that's like what I was, it's not exactly, it's like what I was trying to say. I remember in my youth, everybody was reading the book Drama of the Gifted Child. And did any of you read that book? Raise your hands if you read that book. Wow, she really made an impact, didn't she? Imagine if she was afraid to take the authority to write that book, and she said, oh, who am I to say? But that has influenced generations of people who sort of given people a lens of seeing very, very early accommodation in a different way that they wouldn't notice. Theory is also sort of like a consciousness raising. So I loved what you said. I also wanted to say that in the early 70s, the people that I hung out with would say, as a motto, question authority. That the authority to and the confidence, the incredible confidence to say, you have within you this carrying forward energy, this life force, and trust that. And I will help you trust that, as Jean helped me to argue with him. Trust the process in you and the philosophy that makes room for the process in the individual to be paramount, to come first. So just to summarize very briefly the levels of interaction first, which is my next point. The philosophical level, as you're saying, Natty, and you also, Mariana, is a way of thinking about life as process rather than as things. And we can say that, but it's very, very hard to think that way. And it takes years to sort of find your way into thinking that way, although some people may have it naturally. Most of us in the West have more thingifying, making everything things. This thing, the client is a thing that's a borderline or a obsessive compulsive, and the therapist is the thing that has early trauma, and the way they interact is like that. But there are these things, and to think about this process and how that makes a system, that's really a very different way of thinking. In my schema there of philosophy, theory, and practice, that's a theoretical question, right? How where does authority as a therapist come in? And it references this philosophy of what is the interaction gonna, how is that gonna make an interaction that will make things grow better? And then the clinical practice issue of how can I take my authority with the client and at the same time give the client the space to have their own authority, encourage them to have their own authority. That's a very big question, maybe one of the biggest clinical questions, right? To be able to take the authority to say how I see things, but then right away, and Jean says it should be in the same sentence, to say, but how is that for you?